Uduasha city, where the sun is a mirror and the moon a shadow. 800 years ago, the gates of death were broken by the Emperor Immortal. The 5 key bearers, however, had already unlocked them and walked right through. It is in Uduasha city they dwell. Now, the ghost field breathes next to our reality, lit by the eternal flame of the well of Udu. It is a second skin, a place where thought and will struggle against gravity and light. In other places, the dead congregate in the ghost field, but in Uduasha, the well city, the hell city, they fall straight into the flames. See its glittering districts: Kshitijpur, where the rich plot to buy the horizon; Bunda West, where the refugees of 2 different nations flock; and Pasarhandu, the vertical maze of market and murder. And here is Udepat, where the ceaseless temple resides. Its inhabitants, a family, a snake, and a god. The temple has stood since before the gods of this world were forgotten. Watch as it turns the wheels of revolution. Welcome to Desperate Attune, an actual play podcast about people who take risks so they can survive against the odds.
Hi everyone, my name is Zoheb, aka Klow. I'm the editor of Desperate Attune and also one of the players. If you're listening to this, you've probably just come back from listening to our first episode. This is a recording of us making and introducing our characters. You could think of it as our episode 0. We wanted to put this out there so that you could get a better insight into our characters, the relationships that we have in mind, some potential ideas for character arcs and so forth, and also get a sneak peek into our version of the city of Uduasha. We recorded this and our first episode all in one sitting, and then afterwards we really couldn't decide which one we should put out first. So we decided, why not release both at the same time? Enjoy listening as the ceaseless wheel continues to turn.
This is genuinely exciting, though.
I'm very nervous.
Would you like someone to hold you?
It's like I've got my cat.
Fair enough. All right. So, Tree, GM, get us started.
Yes. Okay. So
I like how you
welcome
just
to...
that's just GM as a verb. Just Tree, GM.
Your thing.
Yes, I should pull up the Roll20, actually, so that we...
Oh yeah.
Are we okay with A Candle Ablaze as the title of like this season or like campaign?
I'm fine with it.
I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
There's something I like the name. Like it hints that something's about to happen, right?
Yes. A candle blaze.
In that case, let us press crew creation. Choose a crew type. We have done this. We are the Acolytes of Forgotten God. Of course, this means something very different in Uduasha because the manner in which gods have been forgotten here is very different. Reputation and lair. Your crew has just formed and acquired a lair. Well, this is not exactly true. In fact, the temple that we're going to be playing in has been around for a very long time. However, our crew has only now recently arrived in it. What do we feel like about reputation? Is there something... Because the standard list is like fairly like heisty, right? Like ambitious, brutal, daring.
I want our reputation to be proud. I think that we're a proud crew.
Oh, that's good. I do like that.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I think proud is very good. Okay. We did discuss what the temple kind of looks like, but I'll just go over that from my recollection, which is that it kind of juts out of the slope that makes up the city of Uduasha, right? So even though it is built on several levels, in fact, on the extreme end, every level is kind of exposed to the city. But over the centuries, much of the temple has been abandoned or it's fallen in and it's in disrepair. And so currently only some of the temple is being used. And the way that I imagine this is the part of the temple that opens out onto the street and the courtyard and so on, that is still in use. And the main sanctum sanctorum, which is where the candles that we light to remember the dead. And does our Forgotten God have an idol?
We have the snake avatar, right? So I guess we don't need like a statue.
But is that what most people pray to, or is it kind of like the thing that we?
Right. Okay. What do other people pray to?
So are we okay with the idea of the Chakraborty, like the sort of like ceaseless wheel or whatever we want to call it?
Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah.
I got really hooked on that at least.
Yeah.
I like that also because it is the word in Sanskrit for emperor. So it's both like the ceaseless wheel and like some form of rain, which is what we like in terms of like what we think our god is doing, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Look at the map of Duskwall. We don't have one. We have the map of Uduasha. We know roughly where the temple is, but do we want to now identify exactly which of our districts the temple is in?
I think we do.
Does everyone have access to the rough map?
Yes, I can see it.
Just I guess question to help me visualize it. For Gilly Gully. Is that how you're saying it?
Gilly gilly gully.
Gilly. Yeah. Like is it? What you said it's a crater or a crevasse, but it's like I mean it has to be huge, right? Like
Yes.
so much so that like a lot of sunlight. It's almost like a valley, kind of.
Yeah, we could be there. Like I think it makes sense for us to be in a fairly like working class kind of like rundown, maybe a bit forgotten sort of place. We could even be in the Udu, which I have noted here as a district, as a landmark, but it probably should be a district, as it is in the book.
I think it is a district. I think that I'm also interested. I think the old city is probably somewhere between Gilly Gully and the Udu.
Yeah, I think we should be a bit further up to give our jutting temple some gravitas. So I think the old city maybe is more fitting.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
So like right in the center of everything.
I think. Yeah. I mean, are we imagining Uduasha as like a broad upside down cone with the Udu at the center?
So what they said is that it's a caldera, right? So imagine that the top of a volcano got blown off, right? So
yeah, that creates a fairly even pit, right? It should be, like you said, cone shaped, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like broad, but like not too deep.
I think like I mean like we don't have to follow the real life geology, of course, but usually what happens is like you get steep, like it's like I don't know, like the walls are very steep, but then it sort of levels off. So it's not like exactly like a cone. Like it's more like I guess it's more like a bowl, right? Like where where the walls are very steep at the edge, and it gets slowly less and less steep towards the center.
I think it may be extremely cool to have it be a rather steep and vertical city. It's like a narrow cone rather than a wider cone.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's cool if it's narrow.
Okay, yeah. And I think this also explains why like traversal is tougher, right? Because a lot of these roads are very tight corners and they go up and down at like a fairly like rapid incline. So if you're not careful, you will like fall and break your neck.
Okay. So we're in the old town.
I think it makes sense.
Okay, are we saying the old town is like actually pretty wealthy with a lot of old like landed families in there, or are we saying it's a wretched hive of scum and villainy?
I think it's cool if it's old money, but it's one of those like everything is changing. It's a cool epicenter for this sort of conflict between old and new, I think. So you probably have some penniless nobles that are like, or not nobles, I guess, because the actual nobility is powerful, but penniless old families that have like a bunch of heirlooms that they are too proud to auction off, but they also don't have any money. Probably next to like some new money people that have moved into abandoned mansions and are like,
I mean, it is one of the like
future.
I don't know, like
that's sort of how I imagine it.
Places in the city that like the citizens take pride in, right? Because with like curated parks and like water features in like it's in the center.
Yeah, exactly. What I'm going for is more pride than actual money.
Yeah.
Right. Like.
Yeah.
There
what
is
Terry
both, but
Pratchett
there's
says
more
about,
pride
like,
than money.
the kind of person who puts who like scrubs their sheets to be like super white and then has nothing to
Yeah,
eat on
yeah,
them.
yeah. I remember that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I think I like that. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
What do we want to call this? It could just be the old town.
I'm thinking of, like, in general, not just in South Asia, I think across the world, like the old parts of the city are just old
Puran
cities, right?
Shohar.
Like old Budapest. Yeah, like old Delhi. You know, like it's just old X, right? But I think here, calling it old Uduasha, like implies that this is what was around before, like the Demon Princess turned up, maybe.
Yes, I think so. That's what I
Um,
was thinking as well, because I said that some of these families have been around like before then.
Do we call it Old Town or do we call it Old Well?
Should we
Since, I
give it a
mean,
name
Udu
like
is the
that's
well.
not linguistically related to, like, I mean, a lot of the names we've been giving are South Asian, Middle Eastern. Like, should we give it a name that's not like that sounds like you can tell that this is linguistically like different?
oh, what is Dutch for old well?
Okay.
Is oude put, but I think I think that would imply some sort of Scotlander influence.
I think it is very funny to me if like the ancient, archaic, pre-Hadrathi language is based on Dutch. It's unexpected, but
Yeah, I think, by the way, Emma, not only have I decided this, I have also nominated you for any like future. If you find like ancient scrolls inside the temple, they will be
Amazing.
So just so you know, I'm going to be writing all of the newfangled forms in like some bastard mix of Urdu and Sanskrit. So, like the Europeans better pull your weight. Yeah, I think that sounds good.
See, that's how it's called Udu. Odu foot. There we go.
Oh, I see it. Yes, very good, very
yeah,
good. Mind
good.
blown. Incredible. Yeah. Great. Okay. So establish your hunting grounds. Again, your hunting grounds. Is your hunting grounds the same place as your temple?
I think it would kind of have to be. Although as a player of the noble sport of roofball, I also therein include the roofs, of course. They're part of our hunting
Yes.
ground.
Okay, I think maybe that is what traditionally has not belonged to the temple that now belongs to you, right? Like, and obviously the roofs are, everybody knows the roofs are different to the buildings themselves. But ever since you've turned up, it's become clear that you not only like safeguard or are proud of the buildings, but also the roofs that sit on the buildings.
Yep.
Okay, in that case, yeah, the entire city is divided among larger, stronger factions, which I think is true of Uduasha as well. So who do we think the roofs used to belong to, and from whom you have taken them now?
So what's the opposing roofball team?
I actually have a good relationship with the opposing roofball team. I've noted them down as my vice purveyor, so we have a friendly rivalry.
Yeah.
And I don't think the teams like own the roofs in the same
No,
ways.
I don't think they do either.
I think it should be
Um,
some sort of cult or some sort of like civic institution.
Right. Okay, then let's call it a civic institution then. Let's call it, I will come up with like a fuller description, but let's say that in fact there probably is a department of the civic infrastructure dedicated to maintaining roofs because of the way that like they are used in the city. Obviously bribing this department is also part of playing roofball. And there's all kinds of like home advantage, etc. Right? But like I think
clearly they are formally chimney sweeps, because why else would they be on the roofs?
yes, that's very good. Yeah. So let's call them the chimney sweeps for now, and I will come up with a better word.
Yep.
And let's say they are tier 1. It seems to me that like it is unlikely that they are so powerful as to be tier 2. but they are definitely like fairly well organized and can be a force to be reckoned with. Of course, if we want to be struggling with more tough challenges, then they can be tier 2. But to me, tier 1 seems about right.
Chimney sweeps, tier 1.
Yeah.
-1.
I'll just put that.
But
Yeah,
I
so
want to
now-
point out.
No, go on.
I want to point out that by a very funny coincidence, the chimney sweeps in Sweden spoke in their own secret language, which was based on Dutch. So there is the tie-in. The chimney sweeps somehow have retained the old
It's all
tongue.
coming together.
Oh, that is so good. So apparently the chimney sweeps are also a cult faction now. Excellent. So currently, if you start with 2 coin, if you give the chimney sweeps one coin, you are neutral. If you give them 2 coin, then you will gain +1 status with them, or you can tell them to take a walk off a roof and just take -1 with them.
Sorry, I missed the part about why we have -1 with them in the first place. Like, why?
We don't have
Okay.
-1 with them in the
Oh,
first
okay,
place.
okay.
It's just
Oh, right. They are expecting, like, this is their turf. They are expecting us to. Okay.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
expecting
right.
payment. I think if it's common courtesy to bribe the chimney sweeps to play the sport, then I think we would have done so.
Yeah, I think so as well, especially with Miraz, Abbas, and Vickers all being like roofball enthusiasts. Like, in fact,
Yeah,
like they probably wouldn't even
exactly,
think anything of it,
and,
right?
you know-
They'd just be like, "Oh yeah, the chimney sweeps, of course." Like, pay your
Yeah, you got to pay them
Okay.
off. That said, I don't think we paid them like a big deal or anything, so they're probably just neutral. We have like bribed them to
Yeah.
look the other way, and that's it.
Yeah, I think like this. I'm just gonna write the words NPC here, but you definitely know one person, right? Like with whom you made the handoff, and like the temple is on good terms with this person. And like by good terms, we mean that like you know them, they know you, and you're not necessarily on the out, right?
Yep.
So like I will decide who that chief chimney sweep is. Maybe they're not even the chief chimney sweep, but like they are
Yep.
the liaison.
Do you want the chimney
Uh-huh.
sweeps to be that cult that Chen was from?
Oh my god.
Inexorable Flight or whatever?
Who's that?
Okay. So when I was playing in Klow's very zoomed in Blades campaign, my character was part of a cult that venerated kind of endless flight. And at some point in the campaign, she developed a severe aversion for ever touching the ground. And it might be interesting, like,
pretty good.
to make that part of this, right? Where it's like just a part of your religious devotion to never touch the ground, only traverse by roof. They probably have all manner of ritual like associated with this, but I like that idea that like there is something in being high up and then falling and so on that like is very important to the chimney sweeps.
Yeah, we call them the pigeons.
Yeah.
Or the gargoyles, something like that.
Yeah, let's do
the
like a flying
gargoyles.
animal. Yeah, the gargoyle. I like the
I
gargoyle.
love the gargoyles.
Yeah.
I think it's a fitting name. The gargoyles are up on the roof again.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
they're also the things that you have to appease to play roof ball. Otherwise, they will fuck you up. Okay, so that's your hunting grounds and your faction. Choose a special ability. I think before we do that, we should go through the cult's god creation process, which I am looking up now.
Yeah, I've never played a cult. Luckily, we have
Yeah,
two
I-
veterans of the
Yeah, we
most
have
successful
two
cult.
old heads.
Yeah. Name your deity and describe it with 2 features from the list. So we have named it the Chakrabarti, and we have also named it the Flaming Serpent. So we love having more than one, and we love having like contradictory.
It is a
So
snake
the
and a wheel. There you go.
Yeah. The features here, I don't think we have to necessarily stick to them, but the features are alluring, cruel, ferocious, monstrous, radiant, sinister, serene, and transcendent.
And we picked 2.
Yeah, I would say here, I think that like maybe like something like eternal or like inexorable makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
like-
Eternal, totally. Let's.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
So yeah, one of them will be eternal. And the other one,
Eternal and unpredictable as its two descriptors.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. You always know that it will be there, and you never know what it will be.
I mean, it's a time god. It sort of makes sense, right? Time is
Yeah.
a given constant.
You,
But
you see, just like a snake sheds its skin every year, our god so sheds its former self to be born anew.
yes,
Oh my god.
Oh, that
You're
makes no
gonna make
sense at
such
all.
a good uncle. Like that's just amazing. Yeah. Miraz is
Uncle, you
gonna
just
be
made that
filled
up on the spot.
Miraz, Miraz, listen to me. The cobra, right? Miraz, are you listening? Is patient.
Yes, Uncle.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have Abbas like always like relate whatever he's doing to like the behaviors of different snakes. Like it's never gonna make any sense. Like he's not
Good.
doing anything. It's like Miraz. The viper lays in its lair for months. It's patient. He's doing something. The cobra is always striking first. Miraz, you have to strike first.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I hate this person already, and I'm gonna make for him at least 3 more uncles and aunties to be friends with.
Good.
So great, yeah. So now that we've picked like what our deities' qualities are, we should pick special ability. And what is interesting is that like a lot of the cult abilities are like very clearly cult. Yeah, like which is not necessarily what you're into. So what are
I
you
think
all
this is
thinking?
a good moment to bring in the fact that we are a community center and we could also have been hawkers instead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we can be like cult / hawkers. I think that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Would the good stuff be interesting in terms of, so we aren't actually selling an actual product, but like I don't know. So again, this comes down to the fact that I don't know how well hawkers manages to be stretched if we don't actually sell product, but like could we interpret the good stuff to mean that the quote unquote product, like the religious services we offer?
The venue is good. Yeah, we
Yeah.
did this for the. Oh, I'm the only one who played in the undisclosed here, but the undisclosed nightclub had the same idea where we played hawkers who owned a nightclub, and we just went with it like the venue is our product.
Yeah, so it's like even though this cult like punches above its weight, kind of like people know it. It's old. Is that good?
Yeah, I think
we
that
like
makes
that?
sense.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, or is it? It was the idea that I was having, but like maybe something else is more like interesting to start with, more flavorful.
Do you have anything in mind?
I like your idea, to be honest.
I think the good stuff makes sense because I think it provides us with a good fictional reason for people in general to know your cult as opposed to like the various myriad cults that exist across town.
Yeah.
Right.
The other one I would suggest from the cult's abilities is anointed to resist supernatural stuff with the logic that our god is eternal and stuff. So we're like difficult to affect with magic. But I think it's more flavorful to have the good stuff, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can head towards the anointed when you begin to encounter the supernatural, but maybe right now that hasn't happened yet, right?
Yeah. We sort of are cult / hawkers. And yeah.
This would be jumping ahead, and we should be doing it step by step. But like, I think this is a good moment to flag that once we get to the contact, it should definitely be the serpent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're about to get there anyway. So assign crew upgrades. So cults start with resolve training and a cohort of Aadiyat. I'm happy to replace that training upgrade with something else. The upgrade that you could get in the place of this training could provide some very interesting fictional texture. Whereas with resolve training, it's like, oh, okay, I'm training, I get to it. And like, you can always train anyway, right? What the upgrade is giving you is that extra XP in that track.
Then Ritual Sanctum in Lair?
Wow, yeah.
It just makes sense that we have something like this. I don't think any of us do rituals, do we? But
no, but it's there.
Yeah, it's there. Mm-hmm.
Very good. Yeah.
Like, I think it's just a function of the nature of the thing, you know?
Yeah.
I think Ritual Sanctum makes sense. Another one that might be logical is the cult rigging, with the logic that we have free load of documents or implements because we wear them. Like, it's not that we have documents that say we are officially priests. It's that, we can dress up as them.
Vestments.
And that can also count for arcane implements. Exactly, yeah. We have this badge of office that is just basically Miraz's official robes and etc.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of spinning cult rigging like this. It's not that we have like extra pockets full of documents. It's that we have signet rings, priestly vestments, whatever, that work both to give temporal and spiritual authority.
Yeah. I was going to suggest that this could be so we start off with 2 by default and we're changing one around, right? So
Yeah.
maybe occult rigging could be one of the ones we get in the character creation versus the default, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, that's how it works, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Because essentially we're replacing. So I think I personally am in favor of replacing the default resolve training with the ritual sanctum, just to indicate that that's just what the temple has. And then narratively, we have acquired the cult rigging on top of that, and another upgrade.
Sure.
Works for me. I think in that case, let's actually, before we get to that, let's talk about your cohort. You start with a gang of adept. What do we think that like a cohort of adepts looks like for this cult, and also like what relationship do they have with like the crew specifically?
I think what makes sense is that they are basically originally just like the temple custodians, these 2 or 3 people. And I want to imagine them to be old people, like of Abbas's age, who are just like, they know arcane secrets just by virtue of having lived in the temple their entire lives. And that's why they're adepts. I just had this vision in my head for some reason of like a pair of spooky old women who are twins and who grew up here.
Do they secretly know things about the temple that we don't? Okay.
Exactly, yeah. And since we only have 2 or 3, the whole visual of twins. I mean, if they're 3, I guess we could have a pair of twins and an old guard.
We could have triplets. There is no reason for us not to have triplets.
There is not, but I think twins are cooler. I don't know.
Okay.
I just like the image of these like 2, old women. They look identical. They wear these very elegant like ceremonial robes everywhere.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But someone else can come up with a different idea. That was just the image I got in my head.
Emma, do you have any thoughts?
Not particularly towards cohorts, really. I'm trying to. I like Prince's idea, but I find it hard to like visualize this part of the game.
Yeah, no worries.
So the twins. I want to write edges. If I'm the one who has a strong idea for this, then I'm going to write this down.
Yeah.
And their edge is going to be knowledgeable, like they know a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And their flaw is going to be probably unreliable, in the sense that we don't like. Sometimes they just wander off into the depths of the temple and we can't find them.
Yeah, and sometimes you think it's one of them and it's the other.
Exactly. Yeah, they're unreliable, but they do know a lot. They're actually better informed than the PCs in this case.
I like the idea that they're like really difficult to distinguish from one another, but they are in some way very like internally very different. So it's important to distinguish them from one another because.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. They look the same, but one of them is vengeful and one of them is kind, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I just had this mental image of Dark Souls NPCs. They're like, hey, 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 hey. Knowest thou of the?
Didn't Grant Howard literally write a 1-page RPG about this? Okay, yeah. I thought he did. Very good. Okay, great. So that is our adept cohort. So cult rigging, the way that upgrades work, of course, is one faction helped you. Okay, let's pick the second upgrade before we get there. So what is the 4th upgrade that we are feeling?
Selfishly, I would like a workshop, like an actual workshop. But that's yeah, I'm being selfish with that because I'm a leech.
That's fair, but what other feelings?
I think if Miraz, like, if one of the things that Miraz would like to do is refurbish the temple, right?
Mhm.
That I think that'd be pretty nice. I'm not actually sure if if Abbas is gonna be bothered to like fix the temple and stuff like that. Like, because he might be more of the whatever, it's just a building, it doesn't matter. But Miraz is like, oh no, we need to the engineer in him wants to fix stuff up. Could be another like
There's something funny about that, where you care a lot about this cult, but you don't care about the building, and I don't give a shit about the cult. But if I have to have this building, it better look
Yeah.
good.
Very good.
Mm.
Yeah. And like a workshop could be very useful for that.
Like that's the fiction, I guess. That's what it's for. But like mechanically, it helps me create, I don't know, Iron Man gadgets.
Yeah. Who came up with Padmapriya and Padmamukhi? Was that you, Prince?
That was me. I just
That's
decided to give them
incredible.
names.
I love it. That is
Okay,
pretty-
great.
Wow. Okay. Excellent.
I wanted names that sounded similar and also have like this mirror image aspect of each other. So
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very
Fun.
good. Okay, so one faction helped you get an upgrade. Let's say that the upgrade that you were helped to get was the workshop. I think someone helped you clear out whatever it was that was earlier in the place where the workshop now stands. And now you have like a fully functioning, if a bit like, it's still a bit like musty, right? Like you still need to air it out, I think, before it gets like properly ventilated, but serviceable.
So if it's like my workshop, like I'm the
Mhm.
one with the hookup,
Mhm.
so I don't really know that many people who know Dosha. So
Mhm.
I think what I would know though is the foundation.
Nice. Okay.
makes
Yeah.
sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's bring the foundation in. They're an underutilized faction and they're cool. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
weird
Yeah, yeah.
Freemasons. Yeah.
Excited to see how they look like here.
Yeah. And they were like very useful, right? Because they turned up and within about 2 or 3 days diagnosed exactly what they needed to do. And I think they probably like gave you the impression that they could do the same for the rest of the temple, but they would expect to be reimbursed and like it wouldn't be free, but you would absolutely get like a incredible job done by them on the place if you wanted.
Excellent. So they are led by this person, and they're based in Golampit.
Yes. Excellent. Did she come personally? Did Fawzia Ansedek come to see your temple, or was it the kind of thing where she drew up the plans and everybody knows the plans must be delivered to the letter and she's doing something else?
I think in Uduasha they're just a tier 1 gang.
Mhm.
Like it's like a new concept here. So
Mhm.
I think in that respect, Fawzia Ansarek would be fairly keen. I think this is her manic phase, right? She's like,
Right.
oh yeah, new guy, also from Dustwall. He used to be in the Foundation, brother. We have to get over here and help him out. So I think she was like super involved in the entire thing, and she was like super enthusiastic.
Right.
Because I think
Okay.
like they're very much in the phase of like showing that this is a good thing, the Foundation, and the people of Uduasha need us.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a perfect example of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's say +1 to +1 to the foundation. Of course, you can spend your last coin with them to get +2 if you like.
Let's see what else we have.
Yeah, let's see what else we do. But I love the idea of having +2 with the foundation actually. But
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
we
Okay.
have one more coin. We also offended someone, right?
Yes. So you offended someone when you got your rigging, right? And I think the reason for this is that the sacred vestments of your order are very specific and require not just like being made from specific things, but also being treated in specific ways, right? And one of the things that the eternal wheel demands of its followers is that its followers be clad in silk, because just like the silkworm the serpent also sheds its cocoons to become new.
Mhm.
And I think that this silk was actually like really important to somebody, but I do not yet know who, because silk could be important to any number of people. You could have pissed off a noble house. You could have pissed off maybe like a gang who was dealing in it.
The Hive.
Mm.
Do you really want to be
Yeah.
enemies with the Hive immediately? I have no problem with this, by the way.
You said Noble House as an alternative. What's worse?
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
The Hive are less powerful here.
That is true.
Who is the hungering one?
That's a cult. It's the empty
Yeah.
vessel.
Oh, okay. Now
Yeah.
we've already been at odds with the empty vessel inside the entire previous campaign. Let's not do that
Yeah,
again.
I think
We
that's
already
fair.
beat those guys.
Yeah.
They are very fun bad guys. We fought them extensively.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
just have a brief write-up about them in the Golem Pit thing. I mean, I suppose they could also do... But anyway, that's what they are.
Yeah, I think the Hive makes the most sense if we're going for a trade angle, but I think we would have paid them off to not start at -2 with them, because that's just very harsh.
Yeah.
So I guess we're at -1 with the Hive then, and have no coin.
We're more interested in tangling with Munna.
Is that the cool guy
That's
who
the
is the
cool
guy?
man.
Yeah.
That's the cool man who's the guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The very charming guy.
The incredibly
Yeah.
charming man. Yes.
Yeah, maybe. I think
I
I would like to leave our relationship to him ambiguous, actually. I would prefer to have negative relationship with the Hive, but
Yeah, I think the reason that I like that is that then it leaves us more freedom to meet him on screen and see what the characters themselves do with him.
exactly.
And he's someone we've invented whole cloth, right? Compared to the Hive,
Yeah.
which we kind of know. So I think I would prefer it to be, yeah.
I think it's easier to start a rivalry with the Hive.
Yeah.
Easier not for our characters, but for us as telling the story. And it also makes a lot of sense, because they're the dealer in luxury goods. That's what they do. So
Let's give them that coin.
I was going to say, in fact, I think that what happened is that someone who works for the Hive is somewhat of a friend, and they gave you like a shipment, right? Because they did a favor for you, but they really weren't supposed to do that favor, right? And then they got in massive trouble. So you gave them some money to like smooth it over a bit, but their bosses have not forgotten.
makes total sense.
Yeah,
Maybe we can
I'm
have
good
that
with
person as a crew contact.
Yeah.
Someone who works for the Hive, but is not in good graces.
Yeah. I'm going to put the Hive at tier 3 in Uduasha, or do we want them to be tier 2? I think tier 3 makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're building up towards being able to challenge Munna and so on.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think they're like at that level yet, but they are definitely aiming there. Okay. And choose a favorite contact. So obviously, the contact that we were discussing was the deity itself.
Big snake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big snake, indeed.
Or the avatar, I guess, since we left it a little bit blank if the snake actually is the deity or just some sort of manifestation of it. But either way, it's our friend.
Very good. Yeah. I think other contacts who kind of like naturally we've come up with are Fauzia, because she's the leader of her own chapter. But obviously, if any of these people want them to be personal friends, then they don't have to be crew contacts as well. Then there is whoever it was at the Hive, who is probably like polite to you, but like that like they can't afford to be too friendly anytime soon.
Yeah.
And then whoever it
probably
was in
isn't
the
this-
chimney sweeps.
Yeah, it probably isn't this V by her person who is an NPC I made for Gilly Gilly Gully. She seems too high up. Or do we want it
Yeah.
to be that for
No, I don't
conservation of NPCs?
I don't think it's her. I think whoever it is reports directly to her.
Okay.
Because I think you're right that conservation of NPCs makes sense, but I want this person to be like a bit more local, because that's why they would have done you the favor.
Okay. Does anyone have a name for them, or should I give them one?
Give them one.
Yeah.
His name is Morosim. He's a hive fixer.
Very good.
He's Severusi.
Nice. Okay.
How do we know this guy?
I think he's a friend of some of the people who occasionally pray at the temple. So I think he's like a familiar face that like, he's the kind of person that, you kind of know well enough that you can ask for a favor. And if you're like charming, he will do the favor for you. But like in this case, it wasn't fine. He thought it was going to be fine. He thought nobody would really miss that one shipment. And it turned out like,
Right.
like his boss was paying attention. Right.
Is it like a friend of a friend kind of thing? Like the intermediaries aren't like important for the game. Like, we know someone at the temple who knows someone who knows this guy, and this
Yeah.
guy is the important guy.
Yeah, basically.
All right, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so one faction is also friendly with this contact, with the big snake. And one faction is not.
Okay. I think the Rakshasas should be friendly with the big snake.
Excellent.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
it's cool if we have some connection to them. They're a super cool faction, and I feel like we're not necessarily at odds with them. Because, time, the burial of the dead,
Yes.
all that.
Yeah. All right.
makes sense.
So kind of a tangent, but since like when someone dies, a swarm of bees turns up and eats it, right? What is an enterprising medical student supposed to do to learn about the human body?
Oh my God.
There are no convenient grapes to be robbing.
That's a problem in Dustworld too, isn't it?
Yes. So I was thinking that at the university there's a gang of medical students who are involved in like who have found a way to keep the bees off dead bodies. Like
Very
I don't
good.
know what that way might be.
Mhm.
And they steal corpses, and like one of the top surgeons at the university, like the man who knows more about human anatomy than anyone else, is like their ringleader. Now, of course, all of this is like a rumor, right? Because how else would he be so good at his job, right?
They call them mothballers.
Very good.
Yes.
Yeah. Also,
Very
by the
good.
way, the way that you know that like you and I live in very different lives is that when you said top surgeon, I thought about somebody who does top surgery rather than a very good surgeon. So,
Uh,
like I was like, oh, I mean, I guess. And then like I connected the dots. Yeah, I like the mothballers. I was just thinking, in fact, that like I think the people who are like pissed off with your big serpent are the hull makers, the ones that use wax and so on, because I think that if you have a very large snake that sometimes appears and doesn't appear, that maybe it sometimes like destroys experimental hollows. And I think that like, in fact,
Is that what it does in its free time?
that's certainly what they say.
It destroys experimental colors.
Experimental colors, definitely, but I meant experimental hollows. What are the not hollow hulls? What is the
Hulls.
Hulls.
I was proposing that we call them golems.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Like when you said wax, like hulls, I was like, oh, this is just a golem, isn't it?
Yeah, I think like hulls are like what they make in Dustworld, like this
Right.
mechanical thing. You put a spirit inside, whereas these aggregations of spirit wax, I think they call them golems.
Yeah.
right? Okay.
I just now had the horrific image in my head of like if they're made of wax, of them as gigantic living beehives with
Oh, God.
swarms constantly
God.
around them, crawling in and out of their bodies.
That is definitely fucked up and now
Trypophobia.
canon. Fucked up massive beehive hulls. Okay, very
Oh
good.
God.
I missed the discussion about the friendship between the Rakshasas and the serpent because well, the internet shorted out. But I was just about to like voice the thought that the Rakshasas might have access to the serpent as well in a way that they can sort of feed it.
Yes, I love
I don't know
that.
if that's
Yeah,
that's
no.
exactly what was discussed just now.
No, but that's very
Because they
cool.
are like disposing of things, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I have this image of just like the temple basement being actually really deep, and they have a back door for like direct access.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and I think
Absolutely.
sometimes the snake leaves through the back door as well, and gets in trouble
Yeah,
with
of
like
course.
things, right? So it's probably just like accidentally stumbled upon like a very delicate trial of this hull that was like occurring, and absolutely wrecked it, and then walked away as if, or like slithered away as if nothing was happening.
This thing has the energy of an aggressive cat.
Yes. Aren't you so glad that you've made it your close friend?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that like
That's this entire secret life we don't know about.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why the what are we calling them, by the way? The people who make things with wax. They have a name.
Chandlers.
Ah, yes, the Chandlers.
Chandlers,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think it's -1 with the Chandlers. Of course, if you really like, you could be +2 and -2. But unless you want that, it'll be +1 and -1.
Let's start plus. Actually, maybe this is where the heart of our conflict lies. Maybe this is where we are +2, -2. What do we think? I could see the argument for it here because both of these organizations are kind of involved with religion and tradition in a more active way.
Say again, which two factions?
Rakshasas and the Chandlers.
Okay.
The Rakshasas and the Chandlers, yeah.
I definitely feel if the Rakshasas actually go to our temple,
Yeah,
all
then
the
we'd probably
time,
have a
then
+2 with
we'd be pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the Chandlers must be really mad about that hull.
Yeah.
Or golem, whatever it was. Thingy.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so we're +2, -2.
Very good. Choose a favorite contact. You picked your.
So wait, just think I don't know if I missed something or didn't get it. So what is it about our snake god that may piss the Chandlers off? Like, how does it interfere with the golems?
Basically, because your temple has a back door into the vast undercity, the snake has in the past managed to sneak into the undercity, and at some point, while slithering through this like labyrinth, it encountered the trial of like a very sensitive and very experimental like waxwork golem that probably like it was like maybe the first or second time it was like being live tested, and certainly it was not meant to be live tested against a snake. And the snake would have turned up with big, rabid cat energy, looked at the thing and gone, "Oh my god, this is so interesting," and like knocked it about a few times. And then the second it stopped responding,
I see.
it became bored and left. But then the golem was left like in the alley, and like
Like, what if the waxwork golem, like, because they are aggregates of like dead people, right? It might be cool if it weren't like important to them because it was really advanced, but because it was a specific, very highly regarded group of the dead that is now no longer accessible to them.
Yeah,
like a particular family.
Maybe like I also like this because maybe the snake is interested in it, but also the dead are like is particularly like something the snake is interested in generally, right? Because the Rakshasas feed the snake corpses. So the snake is like designed to be attracted to this thing, and it's so weird and so like outside its regular experience that it like hones in on it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more and more this snake sounds like a big cat. Just like
yeah, okay, I love that. That is actually crew creation done. So
excellent.
the next thing that I want to do briefly is discuss an inciting incident. So I was thinking that just to get the ball rolling, that we would like have a classic like someone turns up at the temple seeking sanctuary kind of score, right? So like while we've set up like lots of like interesting like tensions just for score one and like to get the ball rolling, we have something that's kind of unrelated to all of that, and all of that will tie in.
Yeah.
Right. And because we were talking about Uduasha being a place where like it's quite metropolitan, or like it's quite cosmopolitan, sorry, and we have like Scotland revolutionaries who show up. We have like a Scotland refugee seeking shelter here, which is not, I think, something that like really ever happens. And then like you have to do something in order to like make sure they are safe in some fashion. Okay, how are we feeling about characters?
Yeah, I would like to do a round of character introduction. Get a feel for who they are.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to have a proper intro.
Yeah, I volunteer our dear leader Miraz to begin.
Yeah, okay. So Miraz is Miraz Chakraborty. He's from this family, right? Of snake cultists. That's how he imagines it, right? And I think like he was raised well in the faith. I think he was raised in such a way where he was religious, but kind of imbibing his father's religious beliefs, which were a little contradictory in the sense that his father was the head priest of the Temple of the Chakraborty, or the Temple of the Flaming Serpent, whatever name you want to call it. He was the head priest, but by actual profession, he was an artificer. And he was really enamored with accuracy technology and accuracy learning. So he raised his son to both kind of venerate the family lineage and the family temple, but while also kind of like giving him the message that, there's other forms of learning. There's more modern ways of doing things, right? And I think the older they both got, the more they were leaning into like the accuracy side of things versus like whereas the temple became more of a lip service kind of thing. And because of that, Miraz, when he finally managed to become an adult and he got a scholarship to study in Akros, he went to Dustville, studied at Charterholt University, where he studied as a sparkwright. By that time, he kind of like was ready to shed not just his Iruvian identity, but like most specifically all the stuff that, all the family baggage with the cult and everything. And there he, did typical accuracy things, especially roof ball. Big fan of roof ball, which of course isn't really accuracy, but he identified it as such. Met his wife. Yeah, I think like Prince can tell us more about that. Met his wife, Vickers, and I think he was basically all set to become a qualified sparkwright, work in Akaros, probably never return home. And then he received news that his father was dying and that he should come back post haste and look after his family. But the thing is that upon arrival, it turns out that, yeah, his father is dying, but that's not the real reason he's here. The real reason is that the serpent has communicated that, in fact, the torch must pass on from father to son, and it's my turn to be head priest, even though I want nothing to do with my family's weird snake cult. Aside from that, yeah, I'm a leech. I'm an artificer. Like I have some sparkwright stuff. I think mostly I'm going to be approaching things with like scientific rationalism and so on, which is I think a funny trait in a head priest of a snake cult. Yeah, I am still maintaining my accuracy roots as much as possible, or at least the accuracy roots that I pretend to have, by spending my weekends at the foundation, trying to stay plugged in with like the latest scientific developments, see what we can do with Uduasha, this like ancient city. Can myself and my foundation compatriots bring this ancient city into the 9th century?
This is the 9th century. It might be. Yeah, no, you're right. It's the 9th century. But like in Uduasha, they start counting from when the demons came down. So actually, here is the 13th century.
We'll drag them down to the 9th century.
Drag them backwards.
Yeah. So that's Miraz.
Would Vickers like to go next?
Sure, absolutely. So, to introduce my character, I will begin by quoting a 3,300-year-old poem by Enheduanna, Her wrath is a devastating flood which no one can withstand. A great watercourse, she abases those whom she despises. The mistress, a Hurrian bird who lets no one escape. Inanna, a falcon preying on the gods. This is Victoria Evangeline Chakraborty, also known as Vickers.
That is incredible.
She is the daughter of the, I forget which in the order now, one of the earls.
Earl Ashcroft, I think.
Earl Ashcroft of Elysia, yes, the 4th Earl of Elysia. She is the daughter and possibly heir. There is a conflict with her sister to this noble house, which is not fantastically rich. They have fallen on hard times, but they certainly have a lot of status, and they are famous for their willpower, which Vickers has inherited in spades. I think she met Miraz in college. They studied together. Vickers was always more interested in sports, but she has a formal education, which has mostly revolved around like classical studies and how to get married properly. That was basically why she was educated. And then she married a foreigner.
I was going to ask if you had also been studying to be a Sparkwright, because we discussed that your father is a major military industrialist.
Probably, yes. Probably like a little bit studied, but mostly, for the culture. Never really intended to be like the Sparkwright of the family. And then she married a foreigner for love, because that is the sort of person she is. She is an avid player of the sport of roofball and has adapted well to her time in Uduasha, taking it up more seriously full time, and assisting in her husband's scientific endeavors to the best of her abilities, which in the field of actually constructing anything are somewhat limited, but in the field of procuring contacts and resources are considerably more extensive. And she is, I think, more social and outgoing than Miraz, and has attempted to build a network of contacts and friends outside just the Foundation. Her special ability is the Tiger's Fury. You can push yourself to move to any location on the battlefield that you can see, or push violently against your enemies, knocking them back, down, or over.
This is particularly dangerous in a vertical city, of course.
Yes. I am well aware. Her nickname in the roofball sport is the Angel of Death. It is a nickname she gave herself. People doubted and laughed at it at first, then they fell off roofs. Now it is a moniker that other players use about her. She has a roofball team. They are loyal but wild. It's a small entourage, and I have named 2 of its members. One of them is Panchu. He is a simple, humble man with no initiative, but very melodramatic and prone to fits of great emotion. And Socks, who is a feral child who sings a lot and is named for her unkept style of clothing, which varies a little bit from match to match.
Excellent. I am going to try and resist doing a Oliver Twist accent for Socks.
Yeah. You may resist this, but you will take stress in the process.
Indeed, yeah.
I know you are the GM, but now you're rolling to resist. This is what Vickers does to a motherfucker.
Very good.
Yes. So, she's a juggernaut. And basically, she would not be here if not for her unconquerable love of her husband, which has made her do a lot of things that make absolutely no sense. But she is very happy in her marriage, in spite of all noticeable things. And her... I will note down also that she has taken to traditional Iruvian medicine, an interest which she shares with her uncle Abbas. And her best friend is a healer named Amitabh.
I want to jump in and add that Vickers' dad, my father-in-law, Sir Archibald Ashcroft III, the 4th Earl of Elysia, is my rival.
Yes. And Vickers' rival is her sister, who is fighting with her for their father's inheritance. So,
yes,
family!
And they're both here.
I do love it. I mean, not only are they both here, they both hate that they have to be here. And it is entirely Vickers' fault that they're here. So,
yes,
they do not enjoy this.
Yes.
Joan, would you like to go next?
Sure. So, in the temple works someone who, at first glance, looks like an old woman. She has the posture for it. She has the movements for it. She has the kind of grayed hairs for it. But she is strange because if you look at her longer or give her a second glance, you'll find that actually she has a young woman's face, and she is not at all as aged as she appears initially. This is Joan. She is a very early retiree from a different profession, which was that of a railjack. But as we well know, that is a rather a back-breaking job, a rather mind-breaking job too. And she had to quit, basically. She had to stop or she would give out. At which point she had to find something else to do. I think someone in her family suggested, why don't you go to Uruasha? Why don't you go to Abbas, your uncle, and study there? Because I think the faith was something that she had an interest in and something that she seeks to explore now. I think the one time that you don't see her moving like an old woman was the one time that Vickers introduced her to the noble sport of roofball, which she does really enjoy because I think moving and balancing was something that drew her to being a railjack. And this is a different context which to like use those skills. Towards Miraz, I feel like she might feel a certain amount of jealousy because the faith to which she clings really strongly is more his birthright. And she is rather mystified at how he seems to be more interested in like the sciences that she found very stressful.
I have a suggestion here, and it's totally up to you how comfortable you are on this. But I think Miraz doesn't like Skovlanders very much. This is entirely because when he was in Akaros, this was right after the Skovland defeat, so I think he kind of like imbibed a lot of those attitudes. So like I don't think he's going to be like outright racist to you or anything like that, but like there's a sort of vibe.
I think it's cool, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
And of course, like he has to deal with the fact that you're his relative, whom he'd never heard of, and what's going
You
on
see
here.
how Joan is related to the family? Like, is it like a?
She's at least Abbas's
Right.
niece, because that like connection is rather like there. I have no filling in for like who her parents are or what like exactly that family is. So perhaps it's actually logical that it's a little bit that's reflected in the story as well. As you said, Klow, like this person who we don't really know. I definitely know old people who like have like 7 siblings and 3 of them they haven't spoken to like for maybe 80 years.
Yeah, exactly what I'm thinking is that like Miraz might not know who Joan is, but if Joan shows up and says, "I am, cousin Firoz's like daughter," like, and he, you remember he went off to Scotland, and I was like, "Oh yeah, how is he doing?" And like, "Oh yeah, he's dead."
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. And lastly, I guess we can actually before we find out what Abbas is like, why don't you tell us about your special ability?
I think I started with goat footed, which is a railjack special ability. It reflects that she has spent a lot of time working and running on the roofs of like speeding trains, like speeding rail cars. So she is very good at balancing.
I approve.
I love how everyone is into roofball.
Yes.
It came together really nicely.
Yeah. I think that it is very important that we never
Does
clarify.
roofball have referees?
Does roofball have referees? Okay.
Yes. I have introduced, in fact,
yes,
a man
okay.
who is a referee, Old Leatherfoot. He lives in one of the districts. And I think they're mostly like old players on the honor system, pretty much. It's like very informal, but they do exist.
I think it's very important that we never clarify what the rules are of roofball. The rules exist. But
Yeah, I think the referee is honestly mostly there to declare what is or isn't
yes,
over violence.
very good. Yeah.
And that's
The only thing I want to say about the rules is that Iruvian roofball is very different from Akarosi roofball. In what way we will not define, but we know
Yeah.
it's different.
It's absolutely very different. Yes, very good. Yes, in that case, Abbas Shafi al-Din Andaktari
Yes.
Chakraborty. Why don't you
Okay,
tell us about
so
yourself?
first of all, I think that Abbas is the younger brother, like of the two, or more, right? Like, or at least of the two brothers associated with the temple. Abbas is the younger one. think that makes sense.
Mhm.
So unlike
Yeah.
his older brother, who kind of I guess always had been more kind of cosmopolitan, more open to new ideas, and that Abbas has been like Iruvian through and through, right? And in his younger days, he was deeply affected by watching like the increasing accuracy, presence, and like what he perceived to be the complicity of the noble houses in that. And so in his younger days, he did a lot of like community organizing, activism. Maybe he got involved in things that are not strictly legal, but he doesn't like to talk about it. But now in his older age, like, oh right, so I was gonna say, at the University of Uduasha, I guess, like for lack of a better name, he got a broad education in like logic, rhetoric, mathematical theory,
Dance.
economics, sociology, like music, anything, right? Like he's a very broadly learned man. But now in his older, like I think his like at late 50s, maybe 60, something like that, right? He's an old guy at this point. And he's sort of not mellowed out, but does not have the like he's not like mellowed out. He's still like bitter towards Akros. Is still bitter towards the noble houses, but he doesn't get up to doing much anymore, other than like just complaining and lecturing. Like like he's a very self-important man. Like he'll spend his times talking, like complaining about like how they don't do things right anymore. Like he'll have like a gaggle of like impressionable like students who he is talking to about like, oh, when I was your age, right? Kids these days, you don't know how to organize anymore. You don't have the fire that I did, even though he himself no longer has the fire that he once did. I think like he would be like one of the things is like that we might see through play is how willing, like, is he going to are some of his like younger passions going to be lit anew by events of the story, like, and is he going to be more involved? But for the time being, I think like he was expecting to be in charge of the temple, but then Miraz showed up and is not interested in his priestly duties whatsoever, and that causes a fair bit of friction between the two. Like I think Abbas does love his nephew, like, and it's more of a like, oh yeah, like why do you have to be this way? Why can't you just listen to me? Like I'm your elder, I know what's good for you, right? Like you come up with all these like you're not the same guy you used to be before you left, right? Like that kind of thing. More who else all right, and with Vickers, I think I think there was like an initial kind of like shock when he's like, you've married her? I mean, but like kind of trying to hide it. Like he's obviously shocked, but he also knows that he shouldn't show it, right? But I think like Vickers's enthusiasm for Iruvian culture has really won him over. He's like, finally, some member of the family that I can connect to. Oh, and I think that leads into another aspect of Abbas, which is that I think we said he's divorced, and I think he does not have any children, right? So I think that really leads into like that plays a big part in his dealings with Miraz, where he kind of wants Miraz to be like his heir, right? Like, and it will try to shape Miraz to do all the things that and maybe try to kind of like, I guess, what do you call it, like live through Miraz a little bit. Like, oh, I couldn't do these things, but you can, and why aren't you? Abbas is an amalgamation of my real uncles and a little bit of me as well. So,
yeah. I think one thing I want to add is that when I was young and things were a bit more 50-50 in terms
wait,
of
you as in Miraz or you as in you?
Miraz. Okay. Yeah, when things were a bit more 50-50 in terms of the science and the religion. When Miraz was a child, he wasn't really aware of it, but I think there was some sort of like battle for his soul kind of thing going on between him and his father and
yeah,
Abbas.
it's like, Abu Miraz, what are you doing?
This was maybe like a big thing between the two brothers, like actual arguments have being had when I
Yeah.
wasn't aware
I
of
think
them.
this is the kind of argument that they've been having like since they were maybe teenagers even, right? Where I think like what's his name? Janni or
Zajidan.
Zajidan, right? Or Bhaiya, brother. He is like yeah. He's mellow, like he's like he sees accuracy like inventions as like really cool, and like he's into that. Where I think Abbas would have been a lot more like sure, their inventions are cool, but what about our heritage, right? Would you abandon your heritage for mere constructs? And this would be the kind of thing where I expect like brother. It's just more fun to call him brother. Brother is more like, oh, just leave me alone. While Abbas is like, we need to talk. I think that's quite funny as well. If like Abbas is a younger brother, I think Abbas like both wants someone to like he really wants someone to validate his like someone close to him to validate his feelings, which is something he has not had, right? Not from someone senior to him and not from someone like junior. Like that's why he is really taken to Vickers. That's why he's got these like this gang of students that he likes to hang around with rather than like as a kind of way to just compensate for that. But I'll have to figure out like what his relationship with the like the revolutionaries and the like especially like the what is it Tardal Ajani is, because he, like I said, it would have been like involved in this stuff before and no longer is. I don't know. Maybe like there are people who are calling for him to come out of retirement, as it were.
I like the idea that in our crew, the only two characters who are really interested in what Abbas has to say are the two non-Iruvians.
Yes, I think that's a lot of fun. Like I don't think he's like I expect like Abbas doesn't care too much about like ethnicity, more like culture. Like I mean, or at least he says that he doesn't care about it. He cares about it a little bit. Like Abbas in his own like the way he sees himself as the guy who's right. Like he's the one progressing. But he's progressing in the right way, right? And that's different from the idea of progress that Akros has introduced. All right, yeah, I think that's Abbas, yeah.
Very good. I think we have like our crew. There's a couple of things I'm curious about. So when Miraz first arrived in Uduasha, what did that like transfer of power look like? Because it seems to me that like Miraz's father is kind of easygoing and not very like concerned with the kind of thing that
Yeah.
Abbas is concerned with, but he's clearly also looking to the future, right? So like he's asked Miraz to come back, for some definition of quote unquote asked, and then like made him, if not the head priest, then like the next in line, right? So what has that done to the relationship between the people in the temple and the people who have come from
I
out
think
of the
this
temple?
leads into like that relationship where Abbas like he does love Miraz, right? Like I think he does have like a genuine connection with Miraz,
Yeah.
and so it's he's feeling both like proud in a way, like oh yes, my nephew, like the person I want to be my heir, like Abbas doesn't have any children of his own, like he's come back, he's gonna take the reins. And I think the resentment is gonna build, like a little bit of resentment will build more slowly as Miraz rejects these duties, right? I think maybe there's a little bit of like initially Abbas is hoping that Miraz will accept this, like even though he has no reason to believe this, right? But there's a little bit of hope, and he doesn't feel too bad. It's like, oh yeah, it would have been better if it was me because I know what to do. But this guy, Miraz, like he's young, he'll learn. I'll teach him, right? And then as Miraz
Right.
does not respond, that's when he's gonna be like, oh okay, like that's gonna cause some tension. I think like I don't know yet. We'll find out like how much Abbas will try to subvert Miraz's position. As it turns out in the handbook over here, that actually the head priest can be voted out by me.
Say that really? That'd be amazing, Uncle.
It says it right here. It mentions me by
Okay,
name.
okay, you know what? Actually, I think this is a lot of fun because where Abbas is trying to subvert Miraz and the Miraz wants to be subverted, but the other devotees are like, is that what it says though? Because I don't remember that being there. Can yeah, so neither can get
Yeah.
what they want.
I think the linchpin here really is the serpent.
Mhm.
The serpent's like, tag, you're it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So you got
Yes.
tagged. Your career got ruined because you got tagged by a giant snake.
Joan, I think you have also been tagged by this giant snake, right? Like, it's perhaps the way that like you are comfortable here is because the snake has made you comfortable here. Like, what has the snake done? Also, I should start referring to it by name, but what has the snake done to make you specifically comfortable in this temple?
That's an excellent question.
Because your vice is snakes, right?
Oh yes, I had this idea of so this idea I had was reading scripture and snakes. Specifically, I know this is a reference to something, but I've forgotten what it is. So I'm just stealing the idea that dead snakes can be skinned, and some sort of like something between scripture and prophecy can be read on the inside of their skin, or perhaps just their shed skin, if it's an immortal servant, and that Joan finds some sort of comfort in that.
Interesting. Okay. So I like this idea that like Joan is reading scripture, and the scripture is the skin of the snake, but the snake is also kind of like protectively guarding Joan while she's doing this. So you're somewhere in the bowels of this temple, and it's quite dark, maybe apart from the candle that you've taken in with you. But in that like candlelight, we see Joan reading, and then we see the glint of the snake's eyes as it is looking down on you.
Mm-hmm. I think not only is it, I think the presence of the snake is part of what is comforting, but I also think that what she is reading gives her some sort of certainty. Like it soothes her anxiety to read things about the future or to hear things about the future, as we've like kind of given the snake some sort of prophetic vibe. I definitely think this is someone that is going to be thinking about bad things that might happen, bad things that could happen a lot. And to be told, no, this
Yeah.
will happen, whether it's good or bad. I think that's the crux of her advice.
Were you here before Miraz and Vickers arrived?
I imagined arriving after,
Okay.
but it could be before
That makes sense.
if you have an idea regarding that.
Oh, I was just wondering whether maybe you read Miraz and Vickers arriving in the scripture.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. I also like the idea of you already being there.
Yeah. Well, let's go with that.
Okay. Excellent. Then you are obviously the person who read the hymn to Inanna for seeing
Yes!
Vickers' arrival. That's
I
actually
also
part
like
of the
Oh,
this
story.
incredible. That's absolutely...
I also like that this is another point of tension between Joan and Miraz, is that Joan read or heard the prediction that made him come here.
Except I wasn't foretold,
Yeah,
but my wife was
absolutely.
foretold as a destroying angel, which is,
Yes.
what does that mean?
Yeah, indeed. An angel of death, one might say.
Surely.
Yeah.
Good things.
And I think lastly, Vickers, this temple is in many ways like very different from what you're normally used to, right? So there's a different set of like beliefs and social customs. The way that the temple itself is built is very different. What do you do to find something familiar here?
Yeah, good question. I think partly Vickers has like really tried to blend in and adapt to local customs and does this kind of cheerfully. Like she throws herself into it with great abandon, as she's prone to do. For example, she's already convinced that Iruvian medicine is far superior to Akarosi medicine.
Mm-hmm.
This she has been convinced of. But I think that probably I think there are two interesting things. One of them is probably comfort food, and she's not used to cooking for herself, so she has had to like learn to make Akorosi comfort food, probably really badly, because she's not fantastic at this, having grown up with servants. So like she's taken up cooking as a bit of a hobby reminding her home. And the other one is of course like the sport. It's different from Akorosi Roofball in mysterious ways, but obviously she has taken to it quickly, and probably her team is where she finds some amount of solace in that. But yeah, she definitely has a bit of a like rocky relationship. One of her contacts is a diplomat too, so she occasionally goes to the foreign quarter to hang out with her.
But also avoid her dad, because her dad is like the kind of person who will have lookouts, so that when you arrived in the foreign quarter, he would be able to accost you.
Yes. Point of order. I don't actually have a rivalry with my dad. I think my relationship with my dad
What
is
are your
okay.
intentions with
He
my
just hates my
daughter?
husband.
Somewhat.
So yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I have deliberately fouled up their family relationships here, but yes, like the actual, my actual father, he's like he doesn't approve of my choice necessarily, but he's the kind of father who's still relatively doting, and it's like, you're my child, I'm gonna take care of you, but he thinks I married like absolutely the wrong guy.
You should have married someone that you could take home with you, so that you could be the 5th Earl of Ashcroft.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. That basically the whole point of being put, like, Vickers had no talent for Sparcraft. The whole reason she was put in university was to make like an auspicious match, pretty much. Like a match with someone, so you can carry on the family work. She had a head for business, but not really for science, right? So the idea was find a scientist husband, and then she did, just the entirely wrong one.
Good. Okay.
So.
Okay, I mean, we've got about an hour and 20 minutes. I reckon we could at least get a start on a score. What would you say?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I would love that.
And so blows out our brief candle. I named the disciples of the ceaseless temple thus, with both their false names and true. Soumithri, called Tree as the GM. Zoheb, called Klow as Miraz. Prince as Vickers. Emma as Joan. Aadiyat, called Soap as Abbas. Blades in the Dark and the original inspiration for Udo Asha by John Harper and Evil Hat Productions. Iruvian playbooks by Johnstone Metzger. Jalandhar intro music by Kevin MacLeod. Outro music in Keeravani Ragam by U. Srinivas. Follow us at Desperate Attune on Twitter or email us at desperateattune@gmail.com. Support us at ko-fi.com/desperateattune.